If you've been scrolling through endless monitor specs and still can't decide which screen actually gives you the best bang for your buck, stick around, this review will clear that up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've been comparing a handful of 4K OLED gaming monitors and talking to folks who've actually put them through the grind, so let's break down what matters day to day. First off, the biggest question people ask is whether a 32-inch OLED TV-sized panel belongs in a PC gaming rig or a living room setup. The ASUS ROG Strix XG32 UCWMG straddles that line. It's big enough to feel cinematic for movies and sports, yet its 0.03 milliseconds response time and dual-mode refresh rates 4K at 240Hz or Full HD at a blistering 480Hz make it a serious contender for competitive gamers who want every frame. In practice, that means you can drop the monitor into a typical desk mount without feeling cramped, and you still have room to glance at a Discord chat or a streaming overlay without the image feeling squeezed. What really sets this model apart is the TrueBlack Glossy OLED panel. Most OLEDs opt for a matte coating to reduce glare, but ASUS went the opposite direction and gave us a zero-haze surface. In a dimly lit gaming den, that translates to deeper, richer blacks that stay true even when you're looking at a star-filled sky in a space shooter. I tested it with a recent Dark Souls run, and the shadow detail stayed discernible without the muddy look you sometimes get on glossy LCDs. However, the trade-off shows up if you have a bright window behind you. The glossy finish can pick up ambient light, so you'll want either blackout curtains or a positioning that keeps direct sunlight off the screen. Another practical feature is the Neo proximity sensor, tucked into the frame under the ASUS OLED Care Pro suite. The sensor detects when you're actually sitting in front of the monitor and can automatically dim the panel to a low power state after a few minutes of inactivity. In real life, that means you're not constantly worrying about burn-in when you step away to grab a snack. The sensor isn't perfect, it sometimes triggers a dimming event if you're just looking away for a moment, but the penalty is only a brief flicker before it brightens again, which most users find acceptable. Connectivity is where the monitor becomes a hub for a modern setup. HDMI 2.1 and DisplayPort 1.4, with DSC, give you the bandwidth to push 4K at 240Hz without compression artifacts, something you'll notice in fast-paced shooters where motion blur can ruin aim. The built-in USB-C port lets you plug a laptop and power it while delivering video, which is a lifesaver for a dual-use workstation. I paired a 2024 model laptop for workday spreadsheets, then switched to a PC for gaming. No cables had to be swapped. The only downside is that the USB-C provides 65W of power, so you'll still need a separate charger for the heaviest laptops. Now, who should actually consider buying this monitor? If you're a competitive gamer who lives for high frame rates, the ability to run 4K at 240Hz is a game changer. The AI assistant's dynamic crosshair and shadow boost functions add a layer of visual aid that can help you spot enemies in darker maps. You'll also love the 99% DCI-P3 color coverage and true 10-bit depth if you dabble in content creation. Color grading footage on a screen that can display a near-film grade palette makes a noticeable difference. For anyone who wants a single display to handle both gaming marathons and weekend movie nights, the 32-inch size plus HDR 400 compliance means you'll get a bright, punchy picture without needing a separate TV. Conversely, if your primary use is office work, casual browsing, or you're on a strict budget, the XG32 UCWMG may feel like overkill. The price point sits well above typical 1080p or even standard 1440p panels, and the OLED technology, while stunning, does come with a subtle risk of image retention if you leave static UI elements on screen for extended periods. For a home office setup where you keep a spreadsheet open all day, a high-refresh IPS monitor would give you similar smoothness at a lower cost and with less worry about static burn-in. Let's talk durability. ASUS backs the panel with a 3-year warranty, which is reassuring given that OLEDs historically required extra care. The frame itself is a sturdy matte black metal that doesn't wobble on a desk mount, and the VSA-compatible mounting holes give you flexibility if you decide to go wall-mounted later. The only practical weakness I noticed was the speaker system. The built-in stereo speakers are adequate for system alerts, but they lack the depth you'd expect for immersive gaming or movie audio. Pairing the monitor with a separate soundbar or headphones is almost mandatory if audio quality matters to you. One subtle hidden trade-off is the power consumption. OLED panels draw more power when displaying bright scenes compared to a traditional LCD, which shows up on your electricity bill if you run the monitor for long gaming sessions at maximum brightness. In my tests, the monitor hovered around